Okay, relief grinding reel blades by hand. If you are sold on the idea of relief grinding, like many of us are, and you don't have that capability, if your reel grinder does not have that capability, or you don't know, or it doesn't work, or something, I encourage you to consider putting a relief on at least one of your reels and try it by hand and try it. I have done a lot of relief grinding uh, over the past 10 years by hand. Sometimes it was because I did not have a reel grinder with relief capability. Sometimes it was because I needed to do a quick and dirty job and I didn't have time to set up the grinder to relief grind. Sometimes it was because the relief grinding capability of the machine that I had would not do an effective job. Sometimes when a reel gets worn down to about halfway down its life, some reel grinders will not put much of a relief on those. And it can be a lot of trouble and a lot of hassle to set them up. And it's possible to spend a lot of time and effort and energy and not get good results. So those are some of the reasons that I've done a lot of hand relief grinding. And the purpose of this video is to get the point across that there is no shame in grinding by hand. But before I get to that, let me list a few advantages of relief grinding by hand. Number one, it can be done at any time, anywhere, without a dedicated reel grinder that has relief capability. Number two, on some reel grinders, if you want to change over to relief grinding, you have to remove the spin grinding stone and install a relief grinding stone, and then when you're done with that one reel, you have to change it back over to spin grind the next reel. And sometimes doing that will have a negative effect because sometimes your spin grinding stone, when you disturb it, you take it off and you put it back on the spindle, you might end up with some run out if you don't put it back in the same position. And that can make your spin grinding less effective. It's best to not disturb a spin grinding stone if possible. So the third advantage of relief grinding by hand is there's little to no setup time. The fourth reason is it does not require as much skill. A lot of these reel grinders, the relief, a lot of technicians don't use the relief grinding capability because it's not easy to learn how to do. And even after you learn how to do it, it is not fun. It's a hassle. And there can be a lot of fiddling and adjusting. I think it's important for every technician to know how to do it, to know how to use all the capabilities of their grinders and their machines. But there are a lot of scenarios where it's not worth the hassle. The fifth reason, well, I just made that point. Another reason, another point I want to make again is if you don't have a grinder with relief grind capability, I urge you to get a relief on at least one of your reels, and you can do that by hand, or you can send one of your reels out to have a relief put on it. But I urge you to have that done on at least one of your reels, and compare it to the other cutting units that you have that don't have relief. Okay, what does all this stuff have to do with grinding in general by hand and relief grinding? Okay, these are examples of tools that are ground by hand, and this is one example of something that I made a long time ago, and I made this on a lathe with tools that were ground by hand, okay, and including relief ground by hand. All right, so this was turned and knurled and bored and threaded and drilled and milled. And almost all of those operations were done with cutting tools like these that were ground by hand with a common bench grinder. By the way, this is if you haven't already guessed, this is a valve stem remover and storage tool. Okay, so the most intricate part of this is the threads. These external threads, which are tiny, I don't know what size they are. They're a custom size, actually. They're a custom diameter, and I don't remember what the pitch is. They're tiny, okay? And the internal threads, they were all single point cut on a lathe with tools that were ground by hand. Okay, so this is a boring tool that was ground by hand, and here is the cutting point, and this right here is actually the relief that was ground by hand. So this would have been drilled out with a drill that was ground by hand. It's the first thing I learned in the machine shop. Then it was bored to precisely to the desired inside diameter, and then these internal threads were cut with a internal threading tool like this that was ground again by hand, and the external threads would have been made in a similar manner. These threads were cut with a external threading tool, ground by hand, and the result was threads that are tiny, precisely made, and that fit together pretty well. You know, the test is how much slop do you have, and it's not uncommon if they fit too tightly to use a little lapping compound to free them up. So a lot of similarities to this type of work and the business that we are in. So that's an example of what can be achieved with knowledgeable grinding, hand grinding. Okay, and here's an example, you know, elementary example of tools that are ground by hand. Your common drill. This is a 3/8. I think I have had this for about 10 years, and I have probably ground it 100 times. I've probably drilled a couple thousand holes with this. This is the next size, which I have never ground. So regarding drill bits, grinding, sharpening by hand, there are a number of things that are done by hand to a drill bit. First, of course, is sharpening. You're sharpening the lip of the drill, which does the cutting, and your relief grinding. You're relief grinding this area, which is called the flank. You can also hand relief, thin the web. When this portion of the drill here, which is the root of the web, basically the middle of the drill, that is in between the flutes. You can, as your drill gets shorter and shorter, that portion of the drill in here, you know, this is the chisel edge, is the visible end of the web. You need to thin that. It becomes thicker. As the drill gets shorter and shorter, the web gets thicker and the chisel edge will get wider. So that's why you need to thin the edge. Let's see. And another hand grinding operation is splitting the point. I did not split the point on this drill, but that is also commonly done by hand. This drill has a point that's been split. Okay, that's this kind of secondary relief, John Deere would call it. Okay. Let's see, other examples of tools that are ground by hand. Reamers, I don't have one here. Those can be ground. Those can be relief ground by hand. As I said, thread cutting tools, internal and external thread cutting tools. Those were ground by hand for many years, back when man put man on the moon. A lot of those machines were probably manufactured by with tools that were ground by hand. Worm gears, I don't have one here, but I actually made a worm gear with a cutting tool similar to this. All machining operations at one time were done by originated with tools that were ground by hand. And last but not least is knife sharpening is commonly done by hand. So the point of this video is, if you are sold on relief grinding, I encourage you to consider learning to relief grind by hand until you get the capability to do it with a reel grinder. You will probably see a big difference in the effectiveness of your reel mowers.